first and foremost, thank you guys for coming on here today and spending your Wednesday evening with us. We got some good guests here tonight, and going to talk some hitting. In a world that there's a whole lot of information out there. There's a lot of things that's being shared. Like to kind of pick your brains a little bit and kind of see what's important to you and some of the things that you guys teach. So thanks for coming on. I'm looking forward to kind of learning from each and every one of you. I'd like to kind of start just by introducing yourself, kind of where you're from, where you work, and all that type of thing. So, Anthony, you want to get us started?
Yeah, sure. What's up, fellas? Anthony Spataro. I'm assistant coach at Siena. I'm going on my 4th year there locally from the Albany area. I'm really fired up to be here, Matt. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. Mike?
Yeah, I'm the head baseball coach at Alfred State College. We're a D3 institution about an hour south of Rochester, New York. I grew up in Rochester, New York, played ball at Ithaca College, and bounced around with some great mentors who were great helping me land this job. So I'm super happy to be here and talk some hitting and give Alfred State a little love.
Absolutely. Happy to have you on here. Ethan?
Ethan Newton, assistant baseball coach at Fairleigh Dickinson University. Just wrapped up a shortened first year there. From Norfolk, Virginia, which is like Southeast Virginia area. And baseball has consistently brought me up north and back up north. But no, it's been good. So Fairleigh Dickinson University, and we're in Teaneck, New Jersey, northern New Jersey, about half an hour or so from New York City.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, Ethan. Looking forward to picking all your brains. And my name is Matt Marsh. I'm an assistant baseball coach at UMBC. I was up at the University of Maine for the last 3 years now. So excited to get down there, excited to get to work. But kind of jumping into some hitting here. Let's start kind of offensive overview. Anthony, you want to start us just by talking about some things that you believe in from an offensive team philosophy.
Just something we preach on is just tagging the ball early in the count. We're never going in the box to take pitches. I want the guys aggressive. Historically, Major League Baseball and all 3 divisions of college baseball is a pitch that's getting hit the most for doubles and home runs. So, as soon as the guys are walking in the box, we're trying to hit the first pitch fastball. And we're taking the first breaker, we're hitting the second one. And then, as the game goes on, you kind of dictate the approach, but we're always, no matter the pitcher, we're always trying to stay aggressive towards the fastball.
I love it. Mike, what do you got on that?
Yeah, I'm similar for sure. I think all good hitters hit early in the count, and they're ready for first good pitch they get, especially the fastball, no question. I guess I'll differ from Anthony by saying that I think earlier in my career as a hitting coach, early on, I'm still early in it, thankfully, but early on I was very caught up in driving the baseball. And with the levels that I've coached at, I've been very fortunate to coach great players with Ethan in the NECBL and some great D3 ball players, but most players just don't have that 95, 100 mile an hour exit velo that you need to put a 15-degree launch angle ball out of the ballpark when it's cold and windy up north. And it leads to a lot of deep fly balls and warning tracks and pretty BP and not as many runs as you hope for. So over the last couple of years, I've been evolving and transitioning myself towards a more rounded offensive philosophy where definitely attacking early, but more than I used to group hitters based on what their attributes were. Now I group them more on what they need to be. And we have 3 mentalities we try to work within, which is an attack mentality, a do-a-job mentality, and a grind mentality. And based on the pitcher, the type of day we get, the situation in the game, we ask our guys to understand each one of those mentalities and kind of be able to put that hat on at that time and pick the team up, because at the end of the day, our goal is just to score as many runs as we can. And that's where my philosophy's changed the most. Is it used to be hit in as many runs as we can. Now it's just score as many. And that's kind of been my transition from pure hitting coach to a head coach, seeing more of the game that I wasn't seeing before.
I love that. And, with that said, you're kind of giving I like how you said, giving the guys an identity, but it's not the identity that they are, what you'd want them to be. I think
Yeah.
that's fantastic. This is really good stuff. Ethan, what do you got to weigh in on that?
Yeah, just from a basic offensive philosophy, pretty much the first thing that we show our guys or talk to our guys if we're kind of giving our presentation to hitters is our goal as an offense is to hit the ball hard as often as possible. And I want to explain that a little bit because I think like initially people hear that and they say, "Oh, just hit it hard as often as you can." All right, they're just trying to crush the ball, just trying to swing from their shoes. And the key word to me there is often. So basically, we want to have flush barrel contact as consistently as we can. So it's not hit the ball as hard as we can. Just that's not the only goal. It's to be consistent. So to me, that means basically not just seeking for the ball that you can hit 500 feet, but it's being able to cover more of the zone. It's being able to have some adjustability in your swing. So that ball that you're maybe instead of hitting it, 70 miles per hour off the cap to the shortstop, we're able to keep our barrel in the zone a little bit longer and hit an 85 mile per hour line drive over the shortstop's head. Now, to me, that is hitting the ball hard as consistently and as often as we can, because without that, if you think about, batting average on balls in play or exit velocity on balls in play, if a guy hits one ball 100 miles per hour and hits four balls 60 miles per hour or misses, isn't able to put, those other four swings in play, he doesn't really have the consistency that's going to allow him most likely to have a, prolonged success. Whereas if on those four other swings, he can hit two or three of those balls fairly hard, just because of the way, the game is. Obviously, we could have a guy who can hit five balls 100 miles per hour. That'd be pretty cool too. But just with how difficult hitting is, we want to be able to have some consistency. So hitting the ball hard as often as we can is basically our hitting and our offensive philosophy at FDU.
I love it. And, kind of getting accustomed to, the way things are going down here and some beliefs that I have and beliefs that our staff has, the way we kind of break it down, and I've already kind of broken it down a little bit to our guys in the short time that I've really been here is, all three of your points, really. I mean, we're talking about, Ethan, you're talking about quality of contact, right? We're talking about how often can we barrel off the baseball, and I love that. And, Anthony, you're bringing in, strike zone management to some degree, right? Not just being aggressive to pitches early, but being aggressive to the right ones. And, navigating in at bat. And Mike, love the point talking about scoring efficiency. How often, because at the end of the day, for us to win a baseball game, we got to score more runs than the other team, right? So some of the things that we talk about offensively is how can we find our way onto second base? And I know, that kind of speaks to, some of the things that you guys do, just kind of being familiar with the programs that you work in of, when I used to think about offense, I used to think, so I was I was a travel ball guy. Love all the travel ball guys out there. Coach high school baseball, worked in a cage a lot of the time. When I used to think offense, I thought swing, and that was it. It was just mechanical. And now, when kind of growing along the process, you think about offense. I think about swing. I think about approach. I think about ability to manage the strike zone, getting on time. I think about dirt ball reads, stealing bases, all those types of things that kind of factor into it. And it's kind of more of a holistic approach as we kind of go on. But that's kind of what we believe here is, we got to do our best to make quality contact, manage the strike zone, and there's some different metrics that we kind of use to talk about that, and find as many ways to get to second base to put ourselves in scoring position to score runs here. But those are some things that we kind of talk about here. Does anybody have anything to add or piggyback off of that, or any thought that's kind of going on before we move on? Okay. A lot of really good stuff kind of right off the bat. Next question here is whether it be, when you were in your playing days or, coaching hitters, I found this to be kind of an interesting question that we can go in any direction with it. But, Talk to us a little bit about a light bulb going on moment, or one of those moments where you kind of took a look at, Mike, you've already hit on that a little bit, took a look at everything that you've teach or everything that you've done and kind of was a game changer for you. If anybody has one of those types of moments, Anthony, what do you got on that?
I think a light bulb that went off for me pretty early is just my playing career. I always had coaches that always kind of said, wait until you get a good pitch to hit. You're looking for your pitch. And I didn't really know what my pitch was, until, I started coaching one summer in Amsterdam. Our head coach, he just broke it down for me. The earlier you make contact, the better off hitter you're going to be. And, it didn't, it made a lot of sense, but until you see the numbers, just for an example, last spring, we hit 365 with no strikes, one strike, you hit 323, and then two strikes, you're hitting 166. So for me, the light bulb was just, I can do so much more damage as a hitter. I can go from being a singles guy to where if I'm being more aggressive in the count, I can hit a few more doubles, even walk into a couple more homers if I'm just going in the box and having the intent to swing right kind of off the rip.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Coach Newton, what do you got?
Yeah, I think, first of all, just to comment on Anthony's point there, anytime you can show guys data or visuals or proof that they can make an improvement or make a tweak and have some success, or it might be something that they're doing well and they don't even know. Even something as simple as what pitch they think they hit well, and then kind of showing them on video or with the hot zone what pitch they have actually driven and actually been able to slug on, I think is huge. For me, as a player, I never really had like a light bulb moment. I actually didn't have like a real actual hitting coach until my junior year of college. So it was always just kind of talking with my pops when he'd come and watch games or whatever, and just kind of figure things out that way. But I would say as a coach, it was not so much like a light bulb in terms of, wow, I've been doing it wrong the whole way, but it was actually the summer after I coached with Mike here in the NECBL, and I was going back to my second year at Allegheny, the junior college I was coaching at. And it was really just taking a summer of learning and kind of having these ideas and these things that I wanted to try. Those guys, Mike and our other assistant, Jonah Bayless, giving me the confidence, the encouragement to just go to work. Whatever you want to do, man, go do it. And I was fortunate to have a situation at Allegheny where I was the associate head coach there, and I had complete autonomy. Anything that I kind of was looking to implement or add or change or try, our head coach, Steve Bizarnik, was all for it. He wanted to give me that freedom. So it was more so just a moment of like, all right, I had these ideas. I had these things I want to try. You know what? I'm going to jump in there. I'm going to do them. I'm going to make mistakes, but as long as I'm continuously willing to learn, I kind of figured things out along the way. And there's going to be times where you immerse yourself, I think, as a coach. You immerse yourself in a ton of video or diving into the numbers, or you get some new technology, whatever it is. And I think as long as you're consistently looking to learn and find not even new things, but just kind of, do your own little case studies and things like that. And just looking to improve yourself as a coach, there's going to be moments where you're like, all right, this is something I think that I need to do differently moving forward, that we should implement as a team moving forward. So it's really just kind of always being cognizant of those opportunities.
Absolutely. I love it. Mike, what do you got to bring us home on that?
Yeah, so I've had more light bulb moments than I can probably remember or share, because I think all of us can agree, coaching is defined by those, right? If you're not having those, you're probably not coaching too long. So, one I already spoke of, but my most recent one has been evolving for a while. But it's basically coaching through feel. So specifically for hitters, it's stopping the coach-player relationship that's traditional of the telling. So of when any one of us just standing there, basically being like, put your foot there, put your elbow down, keep your head down, all the old things that we might do. About 5-6 years ago, I was introduced to an inner game coach, a mental skills coach from California. His name's Jeff McKay. And over the years, I've tested out asking instead of telling. I'm trying to find out from the players how they feel. How does it feel when they're in the launch position? How does it feel when you're making contact with that pitch? How does it feel when you ride out to go get a breaking ball? What do you actually feel in your legs? So recently, and really due to COVID, honestly, I've kind of pushed my chips all in on this, where I would like to say that I could stack myself up against most with what I know about hitting from a biomechanics standpoint and mechanics standpoint and philosophy and whatever. As most of us, we've read a lot, we've tried to inform ourselves and learned from a lot of great people, and so have all of you. So now it's what's the best way to impart that knowledge on the player. And I'm pushing my chips all in on using what Ethan said and using visuals and video, no question. Still teaching our philosophies of hitting early in the count and being flexible and adjustable in the box to various pitches and various situations and et cetera, et cetera. But what it really comes down to and what it all only matters is, can you feel what's actually happening? And can you then pay attention well enough that you can feel it happening in the moment of battle and step out and notice whether it happened or not and adjust it if it didn't? And really, that's my latest light bulb that I am trying to empower my players with, is simply to make them their own coach. I'm going to arm them with the knowledge and with our plan, and then they need to play. And third, all I can do is cheer them on.
I love that. Being at Maine the last few years and working with some really great coaches and working under, Coach Nick Durba, who's, in my opinion, an excellent coach, an excellent motivator, an excellent teacher of the game. And that was kind of his philosophy too, that, he wanted our guys, when they walked out of our program, to be their own best coach, and be able to not only just understand it, be able to explain it to somebody else, and therefore be able to make an adjustment. And that was the biggest thing for me is, a lot of times when we talk about hitting, we get into word choice, right? We get into the vernacular, and what means something to somebody might not necessarily mean something to somebody else. And one thing we started doing, just before I left, not to give away their secrets, is actually pumping them up a little bit, but we were reaching out to the kids and having them kind of come back to us with what they were feeling, exactly what you're saying. And because we wanted to learn their language more, and not that their language is the be all end all, but if we understood their language, we could have conversations with them and understand it, that it kind of clicked for me, because, it's just something so small, right? And I won't embarrass who it was, but, we do some things all the time, and we just kind of assume sometimes that message is getting delivered. And I was working with a guy who's our kid has been in the program for a little while, and we're going over something that was very simple, and it kind of clicked for him. He's like, oh, that's what we're doing. And in my head, as a coach, you have that thought like, wow, we've talked about this for a long time. You're just kind of getting this now. And, but you say, yes, yes, that's what we're doing, but it wasn't that he didn't understand the action, was that he didn't understand the words that were associated that action, and some of the drills and kind of what was going on with that was supporting that action. You could show him it a million times, but it's now he understands it in his words. Now he's able to kind of take a step back, like you're saying, make that adjustment. And I think that's a game changer. And I love that you mentioned that. That's great. And there were a lot of great points. I mean, Anthony, Ethan, right off the bat, Ethan talking about, trying to provide data visuals to back what you're talking about. And Anthony, you're doing that. And I think that's great. Allows so much more buy-in, and I've seen that already. The biggest thing for me, in addition to that, is just trying to take that data and understand like how we train and how to mimic the game as much as we can, whether it be providing in competitive environments as often as we possibly can. Because I think that can kind of get away from guys as they're kind of getting cage driven and kind of, mechanically driven or one thing focused, that, it all ties back into some semblance of competition. And I think that, just being able to say, hey, we're working on this because it occurs most in the game. We're working on this because just tying the cage to the game is something that, we talked a lot about, and something that I think made a huge difference for our guys buying into what we're doing. So a lot of great points. Does anybody have anything to add to that before we kind of move on to the next topic of conversation?
Well, I just think the one thing I want to touch on, Matt, that you kind of said is, I think the old view of what a coachable player was a guy who you could just tell him what to do. He nodded his head and said yes, and then keep it moving, and you go try to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think, athletes in general are a little bit more equipped with, resources nowadays. So in turn, they're a little bit more knowledgeable. And me personally, I want the player who's inquisitive. I want the guy
Mm-hmm.
who's asking questions, who has opinions, because that to me is the guy that when the game starts, he's the guy that's going to be able to make the adjustment on his own. He's the guy that's going to make the play where he's not going to be a robot. He's going to be able to read a play ahead, be able to deviate, and be able to make that kind of extra tremendous play that if he was just looking for answers given to him, I don't know if he'd be able to, his brain would be able to function the same way. So I think the coachable player nowadays is that guy who you can have a conversation with, who does ask questions, and who's kind of continuously looking to, have his voice heard too, his or her voice heard as well. Absolutely.
And I think as a younger coach, first kind of diving into it, it can be tough when you get those why questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you kind of take that as, maybe a sign of disrespect because of what you're saying as the traditional coaches. When I was a player, I always said, yes, coach. I just went and did it, and, kids want to know more, why more than ever now. And I think it's important that they do know why. And I love it, Ethan. That's a really, really good point. Moving on kind of to our next topic here. What for a hitter do you feel is crucial for success, and how do you train it? And this could kind of go in any direction you really want to run with it. But Mike, start us off here.
So a little bit what I just talked about, feel,
Mm-hmm.
And then linked with timing for me. Obviously, the swing itself, right? We're all training the swing itself, but we're all, especially Anthony and Ethan, you guys are, and Matt, you guys are all three at Division I schools. You're probably getting guys that more need minor adjustments and more. They need to understand themselves better more than anything, but they're probably pretty talented when they show up. We're fortunate to get some of those guys too, but some of our guys need to spend some extra time on the tee. But in general, we spend most of our time talking about feel, timing, and controlling the zone, which we've talked about, touched on everybody so far. And they all kind of intersect depending on what we're working on and what it looks like in that phase of the season. But primarily in preseason, we always have an aspect of feel tied in, because pretty much anything we're doing, we as coaches are going to ask them, hey, did you feel X, Y, or Z? Did you feel on time? Did you feel like you squared that ball up? Did you feel like you saw it to the catcher's mitt? Whatever it may be, we're always asking them questions just to get them to consider and pay attention themselves. And then from there, timing is the biggest thing that I find we have to teach guys when they show up. I think most high school hitters are late in general, and they don't know they're late, and they don't know how to be early if you ask them to. So again, how we teach that is a very similar process of asking questions. We throw them a couple pitches, were you on time? And we make them tell us, oh, I was early, on time, or late. And then we throw them another one, what do you think? And then we'll finally stick our nose in and say, okay, you're early. Can you be late? And then now we're also noticing, are they adjustable? Do they have feel within their own body? We're not just telling them they're early and making them have to adjust. We want to see if they can. Then we're going to ask them, hey, can you show us really late? Can you show us really early? We want to find out what they can do, and then find out how to associate that with what their habit is right now. If they're usually late, they need to feel early. and then they're going to be on time. And then soon that will become feeling on time, and now they can pay attention to feeling something different. But when it comes down to just the act of practicing it, game speed / close BP, front toss is my go-to maneuver. I have a few small drill type things, but pretty much I try to keep it live game speed. We train at about 95 miles an hour, which we might see one 95-mile-an-hour pitcher in Division III all year, and we'll be ready for them. So, we train on the machine, front toss, myself throwing, my assistants throwing from various distances, but it's always equal to 95 miles an hour. And then very shortly into the preseason, we're going to introduce mixing speeds, and we're pretty much going to go random at all times. We'll do a few lead ups every day where we do a full drill on purpose, where we're in our body position to feel being out front and driving the ball up the middle. We'll do some various eyes closed field drills where we have our hitters start their load with their eyes closed. And I say ball whenever I want, and they have to open their eyes and find the pitch and adjust themselves and be on time and drive it. And again, it just kind of all boils down to constant communication. Were you on time? I was a little early. Good. Nice. Let's be on time. Next pitch. And they have to know they're on time. Does me no good to know standing at third base.
I love it. Great stuff. Great stuff. Ethan, what do you got to either add to that, or what do you got on this question here?
Yeah, I think just real quick to kind of touch on what Mike said, timing is critical, but not just understanding timing. Understanding what timing means and understanding what it means to be on time is huge. Not just looking for that response. I'm early or late, but understanding how to get there and solve that problem. But I would say kind of grouping this into two different categories from the swing standpoint. Bat speed and bat path are 1A and 1B to me. If you have plus bat speed, it's not as critical that you have an excellent bat path. You can get away with a little bit more. Guys that don't have great bat speed or great hand speed need to be a little bit more efficient with how their barrel is entering the zone and how long it's in there. So being able to enter the zone deep and stay through it for a long time is critical to me. So from a swing standpoint, bat speed and bat path. From a actual hitting, so we kind of are any prep work, anything that we do, anything involving front toss is getting the swing prepared. To me, that's not hitting. That's the swing. And then you get prepared to hit, to face chaos, to see shapes, to see various speeds. So then when you actually start hitting, along with timing and understanding timing, is barrel awareness and pitch recognition. So barrel awareness is the ability to know when you make flush contact with the baseball. If you miss a couple times in a row in batting practice, can you make an adjustment and square a ball up or miss differently? And then being able to recognize shapes. I don't know how many guys can actually see spin, but being able to see shapes, see how the ball comes out of the pitcher's hand in the first 20 feet, and then within the first 40 feet, be able to guess where the ball is going to end up, because, very few pitchers throw an absolutely straight baseball. So being able to predict after 40 feet where that two-seamer is going to run to, where that slider is going to end up at, where that four-seam with carry is going to be, is absolutely pivotal to me.
Love it. Anthony, what do you got to bring us home on that?
A lot of good stuff. I'm very similar with Ethan. I'm really trying to key on with our guys is bat speed and bat path. We're always trying to, at least create a flat bat path at least, but, we try to, go no more than, about 20, 25 degrees in our launch angle, but really we're just trying to stay flat and stay positive through the zone. Just like Ethan was saying, like the longer you can keep your bat in the zone, the more adjustability you have to, to hit a mistake, or, if you're keeping your bat in the zone, you might be able to drive pitch to a gap. And something else, like with our guys, I just love, having them compete. I feel like as a hitter, you got to love to compete. I feel like with how good pitching is now, guys are getting forced to, see 93, and that's just regular now. When you get up to our level, even your level, coach, in Division III with some of the teams you guys are playing, these guys are seeing frontline pitching. It feels like every game, and it's challenging. So in order to do that, you got to love to compete, and something I feel like, that we do, to train our hitters in order to compete is the same thing as coach. Just you get the hack attack up to 95, and it's hard and it sucks. And at times you feel like you've just completely coached the guys wrong because guys are swinging and missing for their entire round. But it's fun to see them compete because after a while, once one guy gets a foul ball, they're going to start putting balls in play. It's going to be weak contact, and then it's going to be moderate contact, and then they're going to be driving the balls off the hack attack, and then they're going to be cursing out the hack attack when they do it. And then something else that we use this year that we hadn't used before is training bats. We don't have a budget to get the Axe training bats, so I just kind of handmade some. We used some nickels, and I did some conversions. So I don't know how accurate they are, but you got your heavy bat, your underload bat, and the training bat, and same thing that Ethan was saying. I just feel like with those bats, it cleans up so much, so many different things in the swing that I feel like it just completely changes guys' bat path, and the cleaner your bat path, the better off you're going to be.
Love it. Now we hit on a lot of great things right there. I mean, we hit on timing, we hit on bat path, we hit on barrel awareness, we talked about bat speed. In addition to that, now we're talking about competing. So I think that's a great segue into our next question. Is the time starts to we've already covered a lot of great things already, so I want to keep it going. Competing, Anthony, you already mentioned, one way in which you have your guys compete in practice, that you train your hitters to compete. What do you got on that, Mike, to add to that?
Yeah, I totally agree with Anthony. Competition's huge. The best hitters love to compete, whether it's silently or out loud. They're competing like their hair's on fire, no question about it. And both Anthony at Siena and us, we use the a hack attack. We crank it up. We get the velo. We also have my assistant coach and I both can throw pretty good BP. I'm pretty lucky. And if we're if we're 35 feet away, we can look like Verlander. So we'll also just get back there and just pitch and see how many people we can strike out, basically, and have fun. The boys love seeing who they can get a hit off of. And then me and my assistant get chirping, and it's fun. So it's competition for everybody. But I think the whole basis of competition for us in our program is about layering and then putting certain restraints based on what you're layering, right? So we all talked about things we probably all do within our hitting practices or things we want to make sure we're doing 100%. So maybe we're doing game speed front toss where after the pitch, I'm checking in if they knew they were on time. I'm also asking them what lane it went in, and I might also be asking, were they on top of the ball, centered up, which we know is slightly under or under it. And if they don't answer all three right, they don't get a point, and their team might lose. It might just be 2-on-2. We hit a lot in groups of 4 or 5. So we have a lot of small competition. And then when we blow it up to the whole practice, we have a line drive chart that is very liberal to our definition as coaches, but us coaches have a definition of what it means. A 6 is a ball that goes, out of the jumping shortstop's reach. So we know what that means. And we have 1, 2, 3 for ourselves. So if we're out on the field, we're going to just hunt for line drives. One day we might compete for exit velo. One day might be just for line drives. The next day might be a combination of both. And then when we're stuck in the gym, facing live pitchers, which we all know is most of our preseason, it's all about quaps. And I generally split my hitters into 2 groups. Which group can have the best quality of bat average, which is we don't care about batting average. I'm sure all of us, have a similar philosophy. They can check it online if they want. I measure only quabs and quab streaks, and that's what we compete on. The losers pay the price. Same as the Navy SEALs, man. Pays to be a winner. Don't lose, or you're going to get in better shape, and it's going to suck. And sometimes we'll have the hitters compete against the pitchers. This past spring, we had a battle where the hitters were shooting to try to be 600 quab or better, and the pitchers had to have a certain amount of pitches underneath not go over a certain amount of pitches and facing X number of hitters. And man, they were getting after it. So we try to just consider what we're asking the guys, and then how can we get them going from there.
I love it. I love it. Ethan, what do you got to add?
Yeah, this is admittedly something that I guess it would be kind of something I need to continuously work on is like purposefully incorporating competition. Just because a lot of times I get caught up in, I have this group of guys that I want to work on this today. I have these guys that are working on these movements today. And there are times where I maybe kind of lose sight of the competition aspect. So it's something that I'm actively kind of working on. And thankfully, our head coach, Rob DeToma, who he and I kind of, have very, very similar philosophies on hitting and offense. So, we're continuously talking. As much autonomy as Rob gives me, he's still involved in what we're looking to do as hitting and as offense. And he is one of the most competitive human beings I've ever met. So that's never lost from our practice. He'll always, make sure that we're incorporating some sort of competition relatively consistently in practice. But for me, it's just an environment that we look to create. So I know that's kind of like a buzzword, and people say, we want to create this type of environment or this type of culture. But I truly do believe if you let guys know what it is that you're looking for and what you want out of them, that they're gonna embrace that. And one of my favorite things, and where I knew things were at a good place for us as we were kind of working through the fall, is after those tough machine days, the high velo days, or even the nasty sliders that we're launching in out of the machine at 85 miles an hour, before I can even get off of the field, guys are saying, "Coach, don't even worry about putting that machine away. I'm going to roll it over to the cage, and I want a few more reps off of that, or I want a few more rounds." So guys really embracing the challenging aspects of hitting. That's when I knew that we had, not only that we were doing some good things, but that we had some great guys, like that our guys were really, really embracing that, wanting the machine, wanting the challenges. And I think the key for that is letting them know that you're on their side, that you're in their corner. Like there's times where, I'm up there throwing BP, mixing fastball, curveballs, and some other things, changing arm slots. And, I say, look, guys, I'm rooting for you, but I am trying to get you out. Like, I hope you all get knocks off of me, but I'm trying to not let that happen, but I'm rooting for you. And I'm very transparent early on. I'll say, hey guys, this is a day that it's going to challenge you. There's going to be some failure today. So mentally be prepared for that. And then, hey guys, this is a feel good day, easy BP. I want your swing feeling good. I want you getting out of the box feeling good about your last one or two swings. And then guys start to figure it out on their own. And, it might be even where I have a guy who I know maybe is a little bit fragile, and I'll just kind of walk over to him in the dugout. Cool. So, if I have the guy who's a little bit, I know he's a little bit fragile, I'll take him off to the side, or just real quick let him know in the dugout before we start BP, hey, today's going to challenge you, man. Just be ready for it. And we'll kind of balance, like, there's days we're on the field in front of the pitchers, in front of everybody. We want the feel good BP. So we'll challenge guys a little bit more in the cages. But there's times also where we want that competitive environment to be taking place out on the field in front of people, because, obviously when you suit up and play, you have to do it with some pressure. So just kind of finding the balance there, and then really letting guys know that you're on their side, that you're in their corner. And even though you might be making it tough on them, you're there with them, I think is important.
Absolutely. Now, Anthony, you already mentioned a couple of things about the way that you train your guys to compete. Do you have anything that you'd like to kind of add to that?
I mean, nothing really. I liked when Ethan was saying, the best, the thing that, was for him was when the guys wanted to see more machine reps. And, I find that a lot too with our guys. At first, they complain, that their hands hurt, or, I can't do it, coach. And it's just, the more you see it, the the better your timing gets, the better off you'll be. Like Coach Armstrong is saying, like, the same with your timing. You just need to work on your timing, and by working with your timing, it's working. You guys got to compete. You know, and something I love is I love to always try to have that competitive environment. I always want our guys at each other's throats. I love when, you know, one hitter who's very similar to another one is chirping the other one about how he hit a ball 105 and that kid only hit 104, and how he doesn't work hard in the weight room and all that other stuff. I love that. You know, a thing I think for us, in terms of like the most competitive environment, is actually when we're inside. We were lucky enough to get a hit track this past winter. And, you know, with the training bats, you know, you test every third week, you know, just kind of see what kind of progress we're making with the exit velos. And, you know, with the testing day, it's 10 swings, and you basically just swing as hard as you can. And, you know, the competition, you know, I try to, you know, put mismatched guys in groups, and, you know, you got the guy that's 6'5" hitting against the guy that's 5'8", and, you know, it's awesome just seeing guys go at it, you know, and it's just a front toss. So, you know, you got your other assistant coach, and I'm just sitting there watching guys go at it. You know, for me, just watching them get to compete like that, just one-on-one, is, you know, pretty unique.
Now, that's something I love too. You know, we're talking a lot about training above the speed of the game. We're training at game speed so frequently. But one thing to kind of add to that, on that last thought, Anthony, like, when we take swings, or when I was a player, right, you always wanted to go on, like, it's such a cage thing. Like, you take your last swing, you want it to be a ball that you hit hard, right? And you're always like, you know, you get those guys that are, oh, one more. So to kind of combat that, you know, 5-6 years ago, I was coaching at a high school. I told guys, well, on your last swing, you know, we're just going to make it real simple. It's you versus another guy. Whoever hits it harder wins. And, you know, all of a sudden, like, you start to see mechanics totally go out the window, things totally break down, and it starts to create like that game-like pressure in a very cage-like setting. So we've done a bunch of stuff like that, really making it, you know, simple competition each day. The guys get into it too. They're like, oh, you beat me yesterday, I'm going to beat you today. You know, or if you want to take another round, well, going back to what Ethan said earlier, quality of contact, you know, you got to barrel up, you know, whether it might be 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5, however, whatever difficulty you want to make it for them. You know, we talk about having quality at bats, you know, 60% of the time, and similar to, you know, Mike, what you're talking about over there. So a good number for us was like, hey, you know, you got to go 3 for 5 right now. You got to be at 60% or close to 66%, you know, with this next round. If you do that, then sure, then we'll go another round. But if you don't earn it. You know, if you don't produce in game, you know, you're not getting as many at bats, and that's just the way life works. Like, you want to get more at bats, you got to go produce. So those are a couple ways that we've kind of trained it over the years. The guys kind of really enjoy it, and they love it, and it just kind of prepares them, I think, for a competitive atmosphere. But switching gears a little bit here, and we could probably spend about 10 of these 40-minute Zoom calls talking about mechanics, but you know, for each of you guys, you know, give me something that's negotiable, and give me something that's a little bit non-negotiable for you, something that you strongly believe in, that you think that a lot of good hitters kind of share in common. Mike, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, this is a good question. I mean, there's so many things to talk about, but at the same time, I think my negotiable definitely is however you want to load your stance, setup, and load can be whatever you want within reason, it can be whatever you want if you can do it.
Right.
And you got to prove you can do it, obviously. The non-negotiable for me is more how you land, and that dictates more of what needs to happen while you're loading. But again, you can kind of go about it how you're most comfortable. So I want to see a guy land, you know, as 50-50 as possible. You know, I'm not a huge believer. I don't think anybody probably anymore is, with all the technology and information that's come out in the last years. But, you know, the old 70-30, just rotate and leave your weight in your backside, doesn't really get it done anymore. So, you know, we have to be 50-50, if not 55-45, towards maybe even your front leg, depending on the type of hitter you are. So I want to see them landing balanced and under control. And I would say within 55, 45 to back leg, 55, 45 to front leg, that's my negotiable region. Depending if you're spread out, upright, big, tall, power hitter, contact hitter. Those are probably my two biggest areas. And then within the load, there are a couple things that have to have. I mean, you have to have rhythm, which to me, the definition of rhythm is the pace of your load. That's it. It can be fast. It can be slow. It can be middle. You have to know what your home base is, and you have to be able to do the other ones too. Because when you face, we played Mary Washington this year. In my opinion, we were a better ball club. We ran into a great pitcher. He wanted to quick pitch us, and he threw hard. Shut down our very powerful offense immediately. Late, because guys couldn't speed up their load to match that pitcher's rhythm and then be on time. They all knew they were late. They just couldn't fix it. And they wanted to start earlier because they know that's how not to be late, but they couldn't start earlier because he's so fast. So we just, for me, rhythm, 100%. You have to be loading your scap, creating hip-shoulder separation, however you want to be doing that. And you got to be landing in that position. Outside of that, I'm pretty free with my guys. And then through the swing, something that I've seen a big trend of is guys thinking that this is contact point and not this. So that's something that I check for, but then that leaves them without the ability to have any extension if we're making contact here. So, I'd say contact point extension are probably number 3 and 4 for me.
Awesome. That's some really good stuff right there. Anthony, what do you got on that?
I'm with Coach. I'm big on where we're landing with our foot, and I'm huge on rhythm. I feel like if you don't have good rhythm, you will have bad timing. That's, and then something I just, we all, it's easy to say, keep your hands inside the ball, but, I feel like with every single one of our hitters, that's what we're trying to accomplish. Just the longer you can stay inside, the shorter your swing's going to be and the better chance for success that you're going to have. And then one thing that's just non-negotiable is when you're swinging, like even when you're finishing your swing, you have to have body control. If you're falling all over yourself, you're not going to end well. You're basically swinging at roller skates on that point if you can't control your body. So, but other than that, I'm pretty open. When our guys get up to our level, or even Coach Armstrong's level, there's not too many mechanical changes we need to make. It's just that 1 or 2 adjustment. And I've been finding it's a lot more with, where we're landing. It's a lot of kids are like 70-30, like Coach is saying. Not many guys have been taught in that 50-50 or 55-45 range before. And I think too, when a kid in high school who's having, a lot of success because he's taking these absolute daddy hacks in the box, he has no body control. So when he goes and he sees a guy, like our Friday guy or anybody or any college pitcher, and he's, throwing 88 and it's firm and he's got a nice little slider to go along with it, and he's swinging and he's falling all over himself. You got to have, I feel, to me, the biggest thing, he's got to have body control.
Mm-hmm. Ethan, what do you got? Good stuff, Anthony.
Yeah, this was difficult. Kind of go a lot of different ways with this question. I would say non-negotiables for me is it's pretty much what Anthony just said, but it's kind of like the way I think of it and, kind of relay it to our guys is just athleticism in the box. And that sounds real simple. It's like, I just find the best athletes. But to me, I like choosing the word athleticism over balance. Kind of meaning the same thing. Body control, the way Anthony put it, I thought was phenomenal. But athleticism is just the ability to, you see, like some of my favorite swings are when Adrian Beltre, I show it to guys all the time, ending up on a knee, hitting a homer. But that adjustability comes from having initial balance with the body in the swing. That's the kind of the way I look at it. And, our first game this year, one of our guys, Tom Mercetti, one of our better hitters, he had a phenomenal game. He had 2 home runs. I think he had a walk in the game. And then he had this 2-strike, like backside single off of a breaking ball. And, I texted him the next day and I said, leave it up to me to highlight your single. But this was my I thought this was an awesome job of hitting because it showed that he had some adjustability and some athleticism in his swing. And he actually said that that was his favorite at bat too. So I thought we have an awesome kid right here as well. But just the ability to have adjustability in the box is really non-negotiable, and that comes from having balance. But I think if you tell a guy to be balanced or stay in your legs, you can at times create a rigid athlete as opposed to a free moving athlete who can kind of solve problems on his own in the box. And then with that, I tell our guys all the time, I don't care how your swing looks, I care how it functions. So any way that you're able to accomplish those things and solve problems in the box, it's negotiable. If you can find a way to function and get it done, I'll work with you to make you the best version of yourself as a hitter, with whatever you feel works for yourself. And it kind of comes full circle because we said at the beginning of this, they're their best hitting coach. It can't be, I am your hitting coach. I don't think it can be like that. They need to be their hitting coach. We're an assistant. We're there to help them through that process, to help them navigate it. And
I love that point. Kind of going off of that, this is something I usually tell our youth parents. When we ran a AAU program up here and coaching some AAU baseball in the past, like the kid's got to be the one that understands it the most, and we've kind of hit that. As much as possible, but just to kind of piggyback off of that a little bit, like if the best hitting coaches in the world, you take, maybe some college guys, some pro guys that have been doing it a whole long time. If that was the way to do it, to just tell guys, you'd see people on the dugout, like top step of the dugout in between pitches, yelling at their hitters, telling them what to do. You know what I mean? So the player's got to be the one to understand it. The player's got to be the one to make that adjustment. And I guess, we're talking about a lot of the same things as far as, and I love it. I think it's great. As far as, repeating our movements, being, in control of our body, being athletic in the box. And that's for me, like, that's like a non-negotiable, but it's also negotiable in a sense of like, how are we getting there? It has to be repeatable, but how are we getting there in the first place from a stance perspective and a move forward perspective? I think that's where you can, to change a kid going from a toe tap to a leg kick. I used to love that. Like, I just changed my swing. No, you're not changing your swing. You're changing how you begin to gather. You're changing how you're getting on time and how you're able to repeat that. So it doesn't matter to me necessarily what you do, just as long as you can repeat it. And somebody asked me this a while ago, and I got to thinking about it. I was like, what do we really want our hitters to do? Because if you look online, you talk to enough people, you could get a million different answers and different things as far as swing goes. But it was like 3 things that I kind of want, and feel free, like, I want to hear your thoughts on this, but I'm like, get to a spot consistently, throughout our gather. 2, Anthony, you said it, kind of stay inside the baseball, keep our barrel tight, whatever you want to call it. There's so many different synonyms, and that just kind of relates to our path and our ability to stay on the baseball. And on the baseball could mean in the hitting zone for a long time, on plane, whatever kind of word choice you really want to use. But if a guy's doing that, he's going to have a lot of success from a swing standpoint. And it doesn't necessarily matter how he goes about it. If those 3 things are there, you got a really good swing, in my opinion. Now, kind of to add into that, you guys have anything to add on any one of those points before we kind of move into our final piece here?
Yeah, not just – sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No, go, Newt.
The only thing I was going to say is, what you just mentioned is huge, and kind of playing off what Anthony said as well is, you want to build a swing that the player feels confident in. And then once you feel like you have maybe made an adjustment or made a tweak or improved on something, then you want to really test it against timing and against velocity or against shapes. And and make sure that it's something that can really play and really function in the game. So definitely the initial having a swing that works, making tweaks, making adjustments, like you said, a lot of times it might not even be, oh, I changed my swing. It's like, you changed your setup or whatever. But then making sure that that is something that can play in the game when you actually have to hit.
Sure. Mike, what did you have to add on that?
Yeah, just kind of just a toss on top, not an edit or anything. Everything that you guys have been saying is right on the money, in my opinion, with the swing. And I like your additions, man, the way you sewed it up. Something I've been playing with, especially this spring. We've been doing some things over video with guys swinging the bat and stuff, but is breathing. And I don't just mean like meditating or things like that, like making your swing equal to your breath and basically making your breath your rhythm. So, all the swing mechanical pieces we talked about, I couldn't agree with more, but then once those are somewhat a habit, can you ask a hitter to say, okay, now match your inhale to your load or your gather or your forward move or whatever the verbiage is, and then can you exhale violently when you swing violently? And your exhale is never going to change because you're always going to swing violently. But then you can then dictate the pace of your rhythm by simply just dictating the pace of your breath. And if you are athletic and if you are balanced and if you are checking those three boxes, now you've removed a whole lot of thinking. You just breathe and breathe with the pitcher's rhythm. And you're going to exhale and be loose through your swing every time. And you're going to start measuring your rhythm by your breath. And your breath is always there. Or you're dead.
I love it. Really good
Sean
stuff.
Green wrote a great book, The Way of Baseball. He used to do a T routine with the breaths, and I read that 4 or 5 years ago and been playing around with some things, but that's where I'm at right now.
I love it. That's some really good stuff. I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna take that from you.
Dude, we can stay in touch. I'm playing with it now. I'm hoping to learn a lot more about it. We're doing it with pitchers too. It's wild. Friggin'
love
wild.
it. Love it. A lot of great stuff here tonight, and just to kind of cap it all off, kind of bring us back to our starting point here. And some of these things we've already talked about, right? We've talked about quality at bats. We've talked about scoring runs and all of that. But how do you feel success is best measured for a hitter? Anthony, start us off.
I think just the things that make successful hitters are aggressive. And they, like we said before, they love to compete. And, I think something else that's a little underrated is how a hitter can control the bat with two strikes. It's so tough to hit with two strikes. And, more often than not, we see now that, strikeouts are going way up. I think a successful hitter is, a guy that's putting the ball routinely in play with two strikes, but other than that, just competing and being aggressive, that's how I kind of measure the hitters.
I love it. Mike, what do you got?
Totally agree with Anthony. I mentioned quabs earlier. Other than that, for me, a little bit more outside the box way to kind of evaluate a quality hitter is their makeup. There's not one cookie cutter, but I guess the word you could use is, are they lighthearted enough to be a good hitter? Can they handle some failure? Are they willing to handle that failure and respond with working harder, or some days maybe not going to the cage because they know that their swing's fine and they just need a day off, and understanding that they can forgive themselves. So I think a well-developed human is also going to very much characterize a well-developed hitter.
Some good stuff. Ethan, what do you got?
Yeah, those are both phenomenal. And in terms of identifying or defining success for a hitter, I just think as coaches, if we can assist in getting that guy to feel like he has a chance to succeed every single time he steps to the plate, to me, it's going to be some version of a successful hitter. Being able to step up and control the controllables, being able to control your aggression, like Anthony mentioned, being able to control kind of your emotional intelligence, being able to know where you're currently at, being able to know when you need more reps, when you need fewer. So just having the ability to confidence is a thing that a lot of people throw out, but I think that comes with preparation. I think if you're prepared and you know what you need to prepare yourself for the game on different types of days, you're going to feel like you have a chance to succeed every time you step in the box.
I love that. And, one thing that I've talked about with our guys in the past, you mentioned like emotional intelligence, right? And that could stem from, or that could be involved in, your work after practice, your work during practice, and obviously, navigating in a bat as well too. But one thing that I've talked about is it kind of goes against the grain of statistics a little bit, right? Like when you're in your at bat, you want to be independent of each pitch. Your emotions cannot be dependent on the pitch prior, on anything that's outside of that. So I talk to our guys about the law of statistics and not trying to go too much into it because they might start kind of scratching their heads not knowing what I'm talking about. But you want to be independent with your emotions. That just because the stats say when you have one strike or two strikes that your average goes way down, you should be in there saying, I don't care about any of that stuff. Like, I'm independent of that. I'm going to go hit. The pitcher still has a baseball. It still weighs 5 ounces. I'm still gonna go hit it. So when you're consistent in your mindset, you're going to be consistent in your approach a lot of the time. So those are some things that we talk about with our guys, and I have in the past. But kind of when I was thinking about this question, we were doing this the other day with our staff here at UMBC, is just putting together a point system of kind of things that matter to us. If we're talking about strike zone management, giving guys credit for swinging at good pitches, or taking away points if they're chasing in a plus count or whatever it might be. Just kind of the things that we feel are important, giving them some sort of a point system to it that we can kind of circle back and say, hey, these were our best guys because they did this, this, and this. And I feel like that allows guys to kind of buy into whatever those topics really are. But those are some things that we've done, and doesn't necessarily make them right because we're doing them. But I just kind of wanted to share that with you as our kind of final thought here. Now, before we close up, anybody have anything to kind of build off of that last topic, or anything really in general? Well, guys, awesome having you on here tonight. Thank you for coming on and talk some hitting. I know I learned about 15, 20 things just from talking to you, and I know when I rewatch this, I'm going to learn even more. So thank you so much. I'm looking forward to kind of staying in touch with you and seeing you back out on the field. How about that? That's going to be fun when we're able to get back out there this summer, hopefully at some point, or going into the fall. But thanks again for coming on. I'll have this posted up on YouTube in the coming days, and be sending you guys a link, and be putting it out there. So thanks again. Really appreciate it.
No doubt. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks for having me, man.
Later, guys.
Thanks, fellas.
Nice to
Thanks
meet you
for coming on.
guys.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
I'll
Likewise.
talk to you soon, buddy.
All right.
See you guys.
Have a good one.